In this video, I'm going to show how we can take this design and get it prepped and ready for sandblasting. This particular page I'll actually delete, because we've got another page here where it's filled in with all the colors. It's going to be easier to work with this way. If we go to wireframe though, you can see how everything's overlapping, including all of the pieces of the flower, the cross, and the outline there. In order to make this work easier, what I'm going to do is split it into 3 different pieces. So we're going to have this piece here, and I'm just going to hit Control X to cut it, create a new document, Control V to paste it, and then I'm going to do the cross. We'll cut that, create a new document, Control V to paste. And these little pieces, I'm not going to use them, so I'll delete those. And the stuff over here on the right, I'll end up just mirroring what we do on the left, so I'm going to delete those. And that leaves us with the flower in one document. It'll be this outline in the other, and then the cross in the last. The cross we don't actually need to do anything with, so the first thing that we'll do is mess with this one. If we zoom in here, we'll see how these are overlapping as well. And so what we need to do is we need to take this piece here and trim it back where that overlaps. So we'll take this one, Shift select this one, and then we'll just hit trim. And that will trim this one so that these two we can weld together, and it'll be the way that we want it to be. So that one's taken care of, that one's taken care of, and now we just need to do the flower. So typically if I were to start with a piece like this and then contour around it to create another piece, and then I end up having another petal here, what I would typically do is take the outline of this petal, Shift select this one, and then trim it back. And I would continue to do that until I was able to make sure that everything was trimmed the way that I want it. Now normally it's easier to see if I actually make these separate colors. So if I made this one blue, this one can stay black, but I'll go ahead and change it a different color as well. And so everywhere that this green is overlapping something else, I'd want to select it and trim it. So you grab the green one, Shift select, trim, green one, Shift select, trim. And none of these other things are really being affected by it because they're in front of it. But anything that's sitting behind it that it needs to trim, that's what we would do. Once we've done that, we can Shift select this outline, and you can see how they're overlapping here. If I just hit W to weld, it's no longer going to have that overlap. And because it is behind this one, we don't need to trim it to this. However, this one does. Right there you can see overlap slightly. So we would Shift select this and then trim it. We would do that for all of the different pieces that need to be trimmed. Doesn't look like we need to do any more for that, so we'll just weld. This one here, we'd Shift select and trim. We need to Shift select this one and trim. And then we'd weld those together. Trim this back. Weld it to that one. So as you can see, that can get a little tricky going through all of these different ones and making sure that they're trimmed correctly. Normally I would do that as I build the different shapes so that it makes more sense. But that's what I would do, is I'd go through and trim all of those back. However, because it does take a lot of time to do it that way, with this particular drawing, I'm actually going to do it a different way that I find to be faster. And instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one of the petals, and then I will go to Edit, Find and Replace. And I'm just going to do from selection. That way it's going to find properties of that selected thing and hit Find All, and it's going to find all objects that have those same properties. Right now they're all 10% gray. I want them to be white. So I'll just change it to white. And then I'll grab everything. I'll make a copy just so you can see what's going on here. Going to go up to bitmaps, convert to bitmap. We'll do 150 dpi, RGB color, anti-aliased, and click OK. And then I'll go back up here and go trace bitmap, outline, line art. Down here it's going to estimate a time, and it's also going to give a progress bar. Once it's done, it'll give us a little preview over here that you can scroll through and see what it looks like. Normally I'm going to want to make sure that my colors are set for only 2. By default it may or may not come in that way, so to force it I'll just say black and white, and that will do 2 colors. Under settings, I want to remove color from the entire image, and that will make sure that there are no overlapping duplicated objects. And I will go ahead and delete the original since I have the original already copied. And I'll click OK. As soon as that's done, I can just hit F to fill grayscale, and it will combine all of these inside pieces. And then our black is like that. So if we look at the wireframe, you'll see how this is already exactly how we want it to be done. And that's quite a bit faster than having to go through and take these, weld them, or take this one, trim it, and then weld it, and make sure that it's done correctly. Moving things in front of other things. So just tracing it is going to be a much faster way of going about it. However, I do want this to be in the same place, so I should have really traced that one. So I'll just group it together. This one I'll group together. And I'll take this, Shift Select, hit E and C so that it ends up in the same place. And then this one I'll just delete. And the reason I want it to be in the same place is because that when we bring these pieces back, they're going to go right back to where they needed to be. So I'm just hitting Control A to select all, Control V to paste. And all I need to do is make sure that I put them in the same order that they were in before. Okay, so now that we have it the way that we want it, we'd want to take this, mirror it to the other side, and I just hit M on the keyboard to do that. And because we want to be able to reuse these pieces later, I would save this now, and then the pieces that we weld together will save as a different file. But that way all of these pieces are separated out, or we could save them as individual pieces as well. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to select all of these, combine them together, then we'll Shift Select the outline of the flower and weld. This has to be ungrouped in order for that to work. So we'll grab this, Shift Select the outline, and hit W to weld. We'll do the same thing. Because the flowers end up behind the cross, we want to combine all of those pieces together, and then we'll Shift Select the outline and weld it that way. So we'll do the same thing over here. Grab this, Shift Select the outline, weld it. Again, I have to ungroup this. Shift Select, weld, combine, Shift Select, and weld. And then we can grab all of it. Just hit F on the keyboard and it will fill grayscale again so that it's filled the way that we want it to be. And the only thing that we need to do to get it back to the way that the other one was is delete these inside pieces here. The easiest way to do that is with the virtual segment delete. We'll just come in and click on the ones that we want to get rid of. And we'll do the same thing for the other side as well. So now we have our design fully completed, ready to sandblast. Because this one is different than the one that's all in pieces, since this has all been combined and welded together, I will go ahead and do a save as, and save this as a different name. And that way we've got this version and the version that has the different pieces to it. And I no longer need these other untitled ones anymore.